The X-Men have presented us with a great number of unique individuals with a versatile range of powers, and in several instances, those powers have transcended the realms of regular accelerated healing, and they have ended up making certain mutants capable of sustaining life for centuries. In some cases, some mutants have also been immortals. With such a special ability, there are many mutants from the past who continue to exist in the present, and they will continue to do so in the future. In today's video, we will go over the backstories of 11 such mutants who are the oldest mutants in the X-Men verse. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a very small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. So thank you, and let's begin. Number 1. Mott Packle, aka Obliterator. Mott Packle gets the crown of being the ultimate senior citizen as someone who's been in the universe for more than 5 billion years. He is probably the guy that you should hit up to confirm suspicious data about historical events. The catch is, he will keep on living since he is immortal. The knowledge of this pushed him towards his purpose, weirdly tracking and executing the beings of his species. He wanted to be the only one remaining, making him the exact opposite of Aang from Avatar, The Last Airbender, and Sasuke Uchiha. To reach this goal, he needed a weapon. You see, he really liked destruction and wanted to obliterate his targets by using the energies of creation. On creating his weapon, he began to search for targets across the universe. Eventually, he came in contact with the Gardener, who is a part of the Elders of the Universe, a race of superhuman beings. Soon, the Obliterator became a part of the Gardener's group. The Obliterator was now associated with beings who were immortal just like him. Immortal because of a special agreement with death that prevented them from dying. Later, the Elders decided to wage war on death and even destroy Galactus to attain absolute mortality. They even believed that destroying Galactus, the infamous guy whose favorite cuisine happens to be planets, would cause a new Big Bang and the Elders would end up with powers similar to that of Galactus's. Later, Galactus's herald, the Silver Surfer, caused the Obliterator to get trapped without his weapons in a world where there was no one to kill. Left without a purpose, the Obliterator was pretty much obliterated. But back when he did have the upper hand, the Obliterator has some cool abilities up his sleeve apart from being immortal. The way his body was designed allowed him to have unlimited vitality. He could use the universe's energy to supply his equipment with power. He could fly faster than light speed multiplied by 1,000, and he was a weapons designer as well. Number 2. Celine. Celine Gaia was born over 15,000 to 17,000 years before the birth of Jesus Christ. Living in an era where entertainment was not as easily available as today and the internet did not exist, Celine entertained herself by wandering everywhere and observing how things were gradually changing. She had witnessed intense events such as the fall of Rome or the ocean swallowing Atlantis and even Mount Vesuvius erupting. Since Celine was a mutant, she had powers. In this case, her powers mirrored those of a vampire's. However, unlike her pop culture counterparts, Celine does age despite being a vampire, but she manages to look quite youthful even though using her powers makes her age faster. Celine is the self-proclaimed goddess of the moon. She stays alive by stealing the life forces of her victims. In fact, she is constantly able to resurrect herself after being killed. The only way she will meet her end is if an external wants to drain her life force away from her. In terms of abilities, Celine is a menacing supervillain with her wide range of abilities such as astral projection, telekinesis, hypnosis, and pyrokinesis. Number 3. Gaia. The Gaia here is not similar to the mother goddess from Greek mythology, but the two of them have one thing in common. They are both super old. Gaia is over 17,000 years old because she has immortality by her side. Due to her not having a proper fleshed out origin story, she is considered to be a mysterious mutant. In fact, her nature makes it hard for people to even decide whether she is human, an alien, or from a different dimension altogether. A millennia ago, Gaia had learned of the universal amalgamator, an ancient machine that can merge every life form from the universe into one. The amalgamator, however, was guided by Gaia as she did not want the machine to fall into the hands of the wrong folks. In fact, she guided it for over 1,000 years and was even imprisoned to it. Gaia found freedom after the universal amalgamator was destroyed by the mutant squad known as Generation X. After this, they joined hands with the X-Men. Soon after, she joined Xavier's school for gifted youngsters to learn more about the world where she needs to live in as a mutant. After learning as much as she could from books, Gaia left to travel to get some hands-on knowledge. With respect to abilities, Gaia is an immortal being who can pull off such feats as energy manipulation and psychokinesis. She is nearly invulnerable as well. She possesses superhuman durability and strength alongside telepathy and telekinesis. She can even warp reality. Number 4. The Externals. They are an ancient mutant race who have lived for over 10,000 years. In fact, they have witnessed the Hyborian civilization collapse. They are 9 to 10 numbers in the Externals, and together they manipulate society for their personal benefits. 2 of the Externals, Nicodemus and Saul, are likely to be way older than the others since Nicodemus has confessed to being as old as the Swiss mountains. Meanwhile, Saul has been a witness to the formation of continents following large-scale tectonic plate shifts. So if his modern-day child talks about how hard school is, Saul will shut him down by mentioning how, back in the day, he had to deal with Pangea breaking apart. On the flip side, these claims about their age could be exaggerated as well. It just helps them look more powerful. But how did the Externals come to be? Well, Nicodemus and Saul soon realized that they were physically connected to one another. As a result, they began to seek out others like them, forming the loose-knit group of the Externals who wanted to take over the world. This seems to be a common pastime of choice for immortal beings. The members of the world were basically all physically connected to each other as immortal beings, but they were not psychically connected to every immortal being ever. So it isn't like being immortal makes one eligible to be an External. While mankind took over on Earth, the Externals worked behind the shadows, pulling their moves here and there, creating civilizations dedicated to themselves and destroying others. All in all, they have secretly controlled everything while people remained oblivious to their existence. You could say the Externals are controlling the world externally. Some of the other former members of the Externals will appear in this list as we proceed, so stay tuned to know more. Number 5. Apocalypse. Ah, yes, the ultimate big bad guy in the world of mutants. Originally known as Osabanur, which translates to the Seven Lights, the tyrannical Apocalypse had to take up a more formidable name as a genocidal freak. He was part of the Externals, but before all of that happened, he was born in Jordan a long time ago and soon experienced the one thing that turns people into villains, the lack of parental love. He was so ugly that his parents abandoned him, which is clearly not a rarity since Goddess Hera did the same thing to her son Hephaestus for being ugly, and they are not even villains. Early in his life, Sabanur bumped into a spaceship where he discovered advanced celestial technology. He augmented his power with the tech, morphing the technology with his biological molecular structure, and soon became Apocalypse, a mutant with godlike powers. Usually confidence is a good thing, but an inflated ego for no reason is typically bad, and we see that in Apocalypse, who soon began to think of himself as the savior of the world, someone who would get rid of the weak ones to create a place for only those who are strong, oblivious to the fact that strength cannot exist without weakness. The emotional intelligence is generally quite low in immortal beings who wish to dominate the world or cleanse the world, bearing a few exceptions such as Thanos. That guy low-key made sense. Naturally, he has come into contact with superheroes who wish to stop his madness. However, he has never been defeated. On being badly injured, his body enters a state of comatose. Well, somewhat, and it heals its own wounds. This process might even take centuries at a time, but when you are immortal, time is not an issue. In fact, this prolonged time has allowed Apocalypse to constantly evolve and get stronger with the celestial technology embedded in his molecular structure. He was later exposed to 2 techno-organic viruses weaknesses, which he used to make himself stronger once again. Needless to say, he possesses superhuman strength, durability, and reflexes. He can teleport himself, perform feats such as telekinesis, telepathy, and cyberpathy. He can fly as well. He can manipulate celestial energy, creating blasts, force fields, absorbing and transferring energy. He can even bestow powers upon himself, and his ability to biomorph, which is what he did with the celestial technology, makes his power-ups a never-ending process. Number 6. Saul. Better not call this Saul, who is the former external we previously spoke about. He is possibly the oldest of them all, and originally known as Garba-Hassin. Previously, he wandered across the lands of China and Mongolia. He ruled over the lands and had 12 children who were mortal, but he turned their coffins into booby traps following their deaths. Later, he found a celestial ship near his kingdom and went on to dedicate the next 50 years to studying the celestial ship. The exact time when he joined the externals is not known, but what is known is that he represents the patience and thread in the tapestry of the infinite. The immortals tend to have the ability to heal themselves, and Saul is no exception to this rule. What's the catch here is that Saul can die, but he is able to resurrect himself. Talk about independence, huh? He has magical abilities which he can manipulate to levitate, shapeshift, blast energy, and even control fire. Number 7. Cruel. Next up we have Cruel, another former external who was born in the 1st century, making him the youngest in this list so far. He looked grotesque and was one of the meanest ancient warrior mutants in his place of origin, which today is known as North Africa. Many considered Cruel to be barbaric and cruel, and later became an assassin and personal enforcer in the externals. In fact, he was so cruel that he allegedly operated a gas chamber in the Nazi death camps for personal pleasure. His mutations resulted in him acquiring excessive strength, speed, endurance, agility, and reflexes. Number 8. Exodus. We are now introducing a slightly younger batch from the old mutants. So let's talk about Exodus, who is over 900 years old only. Originally known as Benet du Paris, he fought in the 12th century Crusades, soon gaining recognition for being a great warrior. However, he was always aware of something being different about him, something that set him apart from the regular people. He knew that he harbored a power he had no access to. The crimson skin was probably a giveaway. His abilities got activated after he was attacked by Apocalypse when he attacked Du Paris with lethal force. Later, he learned that Apocalypse did it intentionally to make him believe that he was going to die, which was likely to unlock his powers. With Apocalypse technically helping him out, Du Paris felt indebted to him and began to serve as his underling. He trained under Apocalypse and was later turned immortal after his master amplified his powers. However, he was not a maniac like his master. On learning that Apocalypse intended to destroy civilization for being weak, Du Paris left his master's side, especially because he was tasked to kill his friend. Later, he was forced into a coma and spent thousands of years in a tomb. He awoke in the modern world when Magneto awakened him. As such, he began to work towards Magneto's mutant supremacy goal as one of the acolytes. In fact, he became Magneto's right-hand man. As a mutant, he has had many run-ins with the X-Men and has worked as both an ally and an enemy. In terms of power, Exodus is psionic of the highest order, with his vast superhuman abilities and status as an Omega-level mutant. He has the common psionic abilities such as telepathy, albeit to a degree exponentially higher than most mutants. His powers also get enhanced when others around him or he himself puts more faith in him. He can also astral project, feed upon the psionic energies of others, heal himself, and is immune to diseases. Number 9. Jonas Grey Malkin. Jonas Grey Malkin was born in the beginning of the 19th century before the American Revolution. Jonas awakened his mutant abilities at the age of 16, and it all began on realizing that his sexual orientation was not the same as everyone else's. He was gay, but his father was very religious, making him intolerant towards more fluid sexual choices, and it was a world where non-heterosexual people were severely looked down upon. One day, he was caught with another older boy in the barn. And naturally, when his father found out, he beat Jonas until he believed he was dead because he believed his son now to be the spawn of the devil, and then he buried his own son. However, being buried alive awakened his powers, with which he could surpass eternity. But the weird thing was that it took him 200 years to even be awake from his slumber. Jonas awakened in the modern world, and interestingly, the location of his grave was where Professor X's school for mutants stood. After Sentinel bombed the school headquarters, Jonas was found. Other than being able to transcend eternity, Jonas had superhuman strength, agility, stamina, and durability. His powers increased in the dark, but weakened under the light. Number 10. Wolverine. What is a list of old mutants without the man Logan himself? Originally known as James Howlett, he was born in the 1880s to an aristocratic family in Canada, making him over 190 years old at present. And by present, we mean the current storyline that is set with Old Man Logan and 50 years into the future. So technically, it is not the present, but it is the present for Old Man Logan, to whom this section is dedicated. His childhood was pretty tragic. James was more attached to his stepfather than his biological dad, Thomas Logan. As Thomas murdered James' stepfather, it triggered his mutation, making James impale Thomas with his bone claws. His new powers also came with berserker rage, turning him into the violent mutant that we know today as Wolverine. His beastly nature caused him to leave his family and set off on his own journey. He adopted the name Logan and lived amidst war, death, blood, and betrayal. Throughout his life, he has witnessed the deaths of many loved ones due to him being used for his powers and range or his immortality and healing factor, making him outlive everyone else. Later, he was forced into being a subject for the Weapon X program, where his bone claws were coated with adamantium, an indestructible metal. This only made him so much more lethal. He was later rescued by the Hudsons and invited by Charles Xavier to become part of the X-Men. In the storyline set into the future, Old Man Logan was sent back to the regular timeline to prevent an apocalyptic future. However, realizing that he was in a different past, he decided to help the X-Men out in attaining world peace. In terms of power, the Wolverine has heightened superhuman abilities such as strength and durability. He also has keen senses, an ability to heal his body which makes him immortal, his berserker rage, and his signature adamantium claws. Number 11. Mystique. And finally, we end this list with the blue shapeshifter known as Mystique. Her unique appearance makes her the most recognizable character in the X-Men, alongside the uber-famous Wolverine, of course. Originally known as Raven Darkholme, Mystique was born in the early 1900s, making her the youngest one on this list. Not much is known about her origins that caused her to become a shapeshifter, but her mutant abilities helped her get hired as a detective by Irene Adler, who is known as Destiny and later became Mystique's wife. However, constant failure turned Mystique into an extremist, and she reformed the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants to assassinate Senator Robert Kelly, who was an anti-mutant policeman. The X-Men soon came to the policeman's rescue, but Mystique continued with her life as a master deceiver, infiltrating mutant organizations left and right. She later joined groups such as X-Factor, the Marauders, and the X-Men, but Destiny's death had a huge emotional impact on her. In terms of powers, Mystique can not just shapeshift, but she can also mimic voices. She also has enhanced physical attributes, faster healing that allows her to regenerate limbs, resistance to toxins and diseases, slowed aging, and psychic defense. She is also a master martial artist. It's easier to be an evil old mutant than a kind-hearted one. While the evil ones remain concerned with mass extermination or domination, not caring about the lives lost in the process, the kinder mutants become victims of having to witness the death of their loved ones over and over again, proving that an extended lifeline is much more of a curse than a gift. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. And in the meantime, have a good one and be safe. Thank you, everybody.